Last year, Duluth police responded to 522 overdose calls. That's up from 461 the year before. And that's why Congressman Pete Stauber held a roundtable in the evening in Hermantown, hearing from people on the front lines. Northern News Now's Cara Kopp was there and shares what leaders want done.
Obviously, listening to the law enforcement leaders, it's a crisis right now.
Congressman Pete Stauber is talking about Minnesota's ongoing fentanyl crisis. He, along with local law enforcement leaders, gathered during a roundtable discussion Wednesday. Stauber listening to community stakeholders about what they need from federal leaders to address the fentanyl problem in the Northland.
To hear these stories is really devastating, and so what we need to do is, as federal legislators, we need to make sure that the investment is the boots on the ground.
That investment focuses on two key areas, one of those being education prevention.
As I talk to youth throughout the county, many are still unaware of the impact of the drugs that we're seeing.
One idea brought to the table was reinstating the DARE program in local schools, but this time with additional state funding. Another area of concern was a lack of resources.
So oftentimes, law enforcement is put in these positions to help in situations where it really doesn't necessarily fall under their umbrella. But they're the only ones, they're the only government entity that is there to help.
Law enforcement leaders saying federal dollars should be used to create more specialized behavioral units, each one staffed with counselors trained in handling overdoses and addiction. Also noting the need for more police officers and local departments to properly respond to fentanyl overdose calls.
They don't have the actual number of officers to respond to all these calls.
Congressman Stauber taking these concerns back with him to the nation's capital.
It was really a good roundtable today, and I think we're all going to come out and have that good discussion, and we're not going to stop till we've tackled this.
In Duluth, Cara Kopp, Northern News Now.
And because of the increase in overdoses, all Northland law enforcement agencies are trained on Narcan. That's a medication used to reverse the effects of an opioid overdose.